Good evening. This is a Tevah Torah in Parashat Ki Savo, and this parsha contains a number of different things. The one, if the parsha begins, Savo, which literally means when you come to the land. This is Moshe, who's not going to be going. When you come to the land, you're going to take your first fruits from the ground, you place in a basket, go to the site that Hashem will choose. Associated name means eventually will mean the base of Mikdash. And then the Kohen will say, I am affirming you, Lord of God, I come to the land that you swore to fathers to give us. He takes the basket in hand, and then makes the following declaration. My ancestor was a homeless Aramean. He went with a small number of men and lived there. There that he became a great in power. It's one reading of it. Another one which I can only explain is that when the Aramean, meaning Lavan, tried to destroy our father, meaning Yaakov, and then we went down to Egypt. And after that discussion, it talks in the third year of the 7-year cycle, you have to give a special tithe to the poor, the Levium, widows and orphans, Gerim, converts, and everything must be where Hashem serve. Tells you to serve. Then Hashem Moshe says you're going to have to keep all the commandments. That's what God's commanding. And it says when you cross the Jordan, that you have to paint the entire plaster on the entire Torah and Har Hevel. Then you build an altar, and Hashem and the Levium to tell all Israel, you're becoming a nation today. This is shortly before Moshe is going to pass away. And then there's two mountains, Mount Kizrim, Mount Ebal, 6 tribes in one and 6 in the other, and the blessings and the curses will be announced. The actual curses, the blessings, one of the curses won't affect the Jewish people. The Parsha then goes on saying all the blessings we're going to get. Then there's pages of verses. Now, and it ends with when he tells them, remember everything that's occurred. You got the Torah, remember how you defeated the kings Og and Sikon, and he was successful all you do. So there's a positive note at the end. Should be noted there is far more curses than brachas, because in the explanation, one of the explanations that's given, you can have far more. The blessings are limitless, so that's why they're in general. The curses, he says, like an arrow with a quiver. When somebody is an archer, and the bow, there's a limited number of arrows. when all those are over, the curses will still be standing and will be redeemed. Now, what I would like to go through in this Tevah Torah is question. It's usually, there's different ways of understanding the pasuk that I quoted, but it's usually saying that the Aramean tried to destroy us, tried to reach out and destroy us. That's one understanding. Now, who was this Aramean? It was none other than Lavan. Now, Lavan, I could give a whole Devar Torah to sure actually of him, but he was deceptive. He was a trickster. His name is Lavan. He looked white pure, but he was anything but. As explained in a number of sources, he had the potential. He was unbridled energy, kedusha, like people can either go for the good or bad. In his case, it went for evil. He used what we call magic, not magic in terms of tricks, but actual using of the dark forces, the klipo, impurities. And looking at the Parashat level, this is, by the way, also brought down in the Haggadah that we read on the first night of Pesach. It's very interesting that they asked, what did Lavan do that was so bad? Now, surface level, we know he changed Yaakov's wages 100 times, but he wanted to eradicate us, which I'll be explaining in more detail shortly. But why is Lavan mentioned in this pledge of giving the first fruits to Hashem? We had many other enemies, but Lavan, unlike the other enemies, including the Egyptians wanted to destroy us physically. They were not trying to destroy us spiritually. Lavan was trying to destroy us spiritually. And let's look at all the damage he did. The original plan, divine plan, would have been that Yaakov would have married Rachel. Afterwards, he would have realized that Leah was a true partner for him. This is something I'll be speaking about more in Parshas Vayetze and Sefer Bereshis. In any event, the first thing he did is he switched wives. He switched Leah for Rachel. Now, that had a lot of consequences. First of all, and I'll list them. First of all, if he hadn't done that and Leah became a desired wife along with Rachel later, Yosef could have been the firstborn. Hashem would not have had to, as it says in the Chumash, because he felt that Leah was less loved. He gave her children before Rachel. Wouldn't have been necessary. And if that was the case, Yosef could have been the firstborn. His brothers wouldn't have been jealous of him because, listen, he's the firstborn, he's the oldest. And with the same wisdom and all the things, he wouldn't have had the hatred. That's number one. But being brother number 11 of 12, obviously didn't give him that status. And also, so that was one thing. Now, another consequence of it was that Ruvain was unstable. Now, why was that? Even though Yaakov was pure, totally pure, and this was his first koach, how a child will come out and born and how it will act depends on partially how it was conceived. Even though his motives were totally pure, Yaakov's, he thought he was with Rachel when he was actually with Leah. That Rachel gave the signals that he and Rachel worked out, which is again a discussion more for Sefer Bereshis. He then decreed instability in Ruvain, as he says later when he's giving brachas to all the tribes just before he dies. He says, Ruvain was my first co-op, but he's unstable like water. And I'm going to explain that had a consequence we will see shortly. And actually more than one type of consequence. Another problem is it led to not only a problem with the tribe of his, but the tribe of um, God, and that's another one. Now, also, if he had done all these tricks on him and made him work 14 years, then wanted him to work 11 years, Yaakov for Lavan, he would have gone back a lot sooner. He would have spent more time with Yitzhak and Rivka. The split with Esau might have been healed. So that was another consequence. What else did he do? He also did not allow another evolution that was going to occur rose from that. After Rachel died, Ruvain thought that it was insulting that he chose Bila over Leah, and he moved his father's bed. Actually, it was the bed of the Shekhinah. So the bed of the Shekhinah indicated with which woman he should have been with. If he had been with Bila that night, they would have had twins, which would have been Ephraim and Menashe. They would have had the final qualities you need of having to live in Galut. They wouldn't have needed to be exposed to the cauldron of Egypt if he'd even gone down to Egypt. Everybody would have been learning Torah in Goshen. We would have been perfected. We wouldn't have needed the other exiles. That's another factor. And even with all that, he created more trouble. He said that when it said after Laban confronted Yaakov and then went back to where he came from, he said he went back to his place. Now, one thing it could simply mean geographically, but another meaning, according to Midrash Sutta, is that he made trouble. He went back to his old ways. Now, how did he do that? Ruvain, excuse me, Esav, this was after 20, more than 20 years. Esav had calmed down by then. So what did Lavan do? He sent a letter to Esav saying, you know that good-for-nothing brother of yours? He stole my sheep, my animals, my herds. He took them and deprived me of my grandchildren. And Esav said, okay, if my brother hasn't changed, then I'm coming out. He came out with 400 men. And that created another massive problem. And he also wrote a letter to Rivka saying, hey, you better tell Yaakov to give gifts because Esau's furious. So that was another one. And that also ruined the last chance, which could have had implications throughout our history, of making Esau good, because he hid Dinah, and by hiding Dinah, if Esau had married Dinah, she probably could have turned him around. As I said, it would have been a whole different development. And that was the implications then. Now, the implications extend even further. What I'm going to say now is based on the Norah Chaim, is that, as we know, 2.5 tribes were stayed on the east bank of the Jordan. Now, the Parashat obvious level is that they were afraid. They were afraid of. They had sheep, lots of herds, and they figured that was the best place for herds. However, there was a deeper reason, as the Oracle explains. Reuven was unstable. the whole incident with Bila, whether it was actually whether or not, it was the whole incident with Bila, and therefore he did not merit to be in the land. And this also created other instability because the different birth order occurred because, as I said, Hashem wanted to favor Leah with children first. Now, when Rachel could not have children, she gave her maidservant to Yaakov, and he had two children. She had two children through Bila. Fine. Leah did the same thing, but she created this whole disarrayed order. She wanted to have children through Zilpah, her maidservant. It's only one problem. She didn't tell Yaakov. He thought he was going to be with Leah. Turns out he was Zilpah, created instability in the tribe of God. Therefore, they couldn't go in either. Now, that's in Parashat level. I would like to look at it a little deeper. Now, this verse is about we went down to Mitzrayim. We were with Lavan. He tried to destroy us, which is another reading of it. He tried to destroy ancestor. I've given one level. Now, it explains on another level that who does Lavan represent? He represents who is a progenitor of the Sitra Achra, the evil forces. And the evil forces of the Yetzer Hara is constantly going after us. The Sitra, this side of Kedusha, trying to destroy it. And that's where you get all of the Rishoyim at the beginning of the world. I don't mean Adam and Chava, but who was it? Pharaoh, Lavan. He talks about Bilam, Haman, and all those that go out from it. And what was their whole work? Was to disguise themselves, to take the evil and they immerse themselves in it. And they used their various chachmas. Lavan was one of them. And Lavan figured he had, since that his main sources were Kedusha, and by doing that, Lavan, if he destroyed him, that was the motivation that would have taken good out, and the Sitra Achra would have triumphed. Of course, Hashem blocked that, and that's why we had to go down to Mitzrayim. Now, that was also Lavan at work. When I said, but this is a little deeper, this is from the Haggadah of Rav Yaakov Abba Kutzera. And that's the explanation number 2. Now, taking it a little deeper is the explanation of and he fills another piece. Now, in his explanation, how he translates it, then it says when he's doing the Bukharim, the person offers him, then he has to say, for Hashem is God. My forefather was a wandering Aramean. Another way of understanding it is that it was an Aramean who destroyed his father, and this is the one he's going with. Now, who is this person answering to? It's not talking about only the Bukharim, which he offered each year. It's also talking when he finishes in the Olam Emes, and he has to explain. Like you go to judgment for a Hashem person, and he explains, even though we perform many good deeds in this world, the according to Gemara, the Orach Chaim says that we have to explain that even Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, if they were strict in, could not have stood before Hashem. He could not be pure from the Creator, and therefore it says here, this explanation is Hashem because of the Yetzer Hara. I couldn't do it, and now how is the Orach Chaim understanding when it talks about my ancestor? It's not Lavan, though he's obviously involved on levels I already explained. It's talking about Adam Rishon, who created the Yetzer Hara by eating from the fruit. Then the snake, which is the Yetzer Hara, poisoned all generations. And that's when it says, and Aramean destroyed my forefathers, talking about Adam Rishon. And in heaven, we got to use that as a defense, explaining this is why we couldn't be perfect. Hashem, we did the most possible. And when it says, in Aramean destroyed my father, he was trying to, it was in other words, the Yetzer Hara destroying his faith in our father, my father Hashem. And it then goes on to discuss Mitzrayim, but the key theme here is this is going all the way back on that level too, and we should understand it on all of these levels. And what does this have to do with the Purim? With the explanation, with an explanation of Orach Chaim is obvious. Beyond the explanation of the Orach Chaim, it's saying that we have to recognize everything comes from Hashem, and that we have to truly be loyal to Him and constantly fighting the Sitra Achra, the other side, the Yetzer Hara, the impurities. Now, this again, I'd like to add, is very apropos to this time of year. Realize, first of all, we have to again list all our achievements, and that's number one. And number two, even with the really Yetzer Hara, work on ourselves, realize we have defects, but realize it's something that's been programmed in. And as long as we do the best we can, Hashem will hopefully give each of us, and Klal Israel, the Jewish people in the whole, a very good year, and hopefully bring the redemption this coming year. And I would like to dedicate this year was dedicated in memory of Hodalei Abbas, Moshe, the time of the 30th Yud site, and also Michael Bracha, joining the occasion of Shloshim. Spar Torah should be Maliyas Nishim for both of them. I'd like to wish everyone good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.